Good morning, class 9. Uh, I guess you guys are doing good and happy and fine. Panda, how are you? It's been a long time. I wished you. Panda, Pranjali, Bindu, Aman, I guess you guys are doing really good. I am forgetting all the other names, please. So, Avnish or Anish? Anish, I don't know. The guy used to write for me. Thank you so much for writing and helping me out in school. So on the board and during grammar classes. So today we are on SSC. We are still in that part of Russian Revolution. We have done some part of it. I just want to tell you about the socialism in Russia, and then we'll go back to the explanation. It's what actually happened and what actually was the source of it. That's what I want to discuss with you. In the book it says socialism in Russia 2.3 and the economic and society. I'll just read that and then we'll come to that part. Russian Revolution, I told you the Russian Empire, what happened during that time. At the beginning of the 20th century, the vast majority of Russian people were agriculturists, agricultural farming. About 85% of the Russian Empire's population earned their living from agriculture and mostly was on potatoes. That's why they have the vodka, I told you. The famous liquor of Russia and the cheapest liquor in the world is vodka. This proportion was higher than in most European countries. For instance, in France and Germany, the proportion was between 40% and 50%. In the empire, cultivators produced for the market as well as for their own needs, and Russia was a major exporter of grain. Industry was found in pockets. Prominent industrial areas were St. Petersburg and Moscow. Craftsmen undertook much of the production, but large factories existed alongside craft workshops. The craft people, those who were the craftsmen, were having a better life, and they were paid better because they had that influence in them of working. Many factories were set up in 1890s when Russia's railway network was extended and foreign investment in industry increased. Coal production doubled and iron and steel output quadrupled. By the 1900s, in some areas, factory workers and craftsmen were almost equal in number. 1900s. Most industry was the private property of industrialists. Government supervised large factories to ensure minimum wages and limited hours of work. But factory inspectors could not prevent rules being broken. In craft units and small workshops, the working day was sometimes 15 hours compared to 10 or 12 hours in factories. Accommodation varied from rooms to dormitories. People were increasing. Way of living was bad. I told you about the bathrooms, the toilets, 20 people, 30 people, one toilet, dangerous. Human waste getting jammed. Workers were divided in social groups. Some had strong links with the villages from which they came. Others had settled in cities permanently. Workers were divided by skill. A metal worker of St. Petersburg recalled, metal workers considered themselves aristocrats among other workers. Till now, people who do metalworks, even in iron factories, they are the aristocrats. They are even the foreman is looked after by the factory owner very well. He is given everything he wants because he does the main work. He brings out the iron, he designs it and brings it out. The TMT bars, the rods, the sheets, whatever, he gets it done with his team. That's why they are the craftsmen. A metal worker. Their occupation demanded more training and skill. Now, women made up 31% of the factory labor force by 1914, but they were paid less than men, between half and 3/4 of a man's, or 1/4, you can say, or lesser than half. Some workers formed associations to help members in times of employment or financial hardship, but such associations were few. They used to put in money, some part of the money, savings is to make someone comes in problem, and they need help or someone dies or anything, whatever, that fund. But it was very few. Financial help was very less. Despite divisions, workers did unite to strike work when they disagreed with employers about dismissals of work conditions. These strikes took place frequently in the textile industry during the 1896-1897 and in the metal industry during 1902. I had given you how many strikes happened till the revolution. In countryside, peasants cultivated most of the land, but the nobility, the crown of the Orthodox Church, owned large properties. So, workers and peasants were divided also. According to the land, the nobility had some land, the crown and the Orthodox Church had some land, so they were also, workers were divided. They were also deeply religious, but except in few cases they had no respect for the nobility. Nobles got their power and position through their services to the Tsar, not through local popularity. They used to bribe the Tsar. People did not like them. This was unlike France, where during the French Revolution in Brittany, peasants respected nobles and fought for them also. Russia, this was not happening. In Russia, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. Frequently, they refused to pay rent and even murdered landlords. In 1902, this occurred on a large scale in South Russia, and in 1905, such incidents took place all over Russia. Now, Russian peasants were different from other European peasants. They pooled their land periodically and their commune divided in according to the needs of individual families. They used to use their land also, and they used to help themselves as well as that. They used to not pay for it. Now the socialism in Russia. What was it all about? We will come to that. So till here it is explained. Isn't it? So this is what was the reason in Russia, how it started socialism in Russia. The history of socialism in Russia is very large. It's a large history of the attempts by a minority, lower people, first as revolutionaries and then as rulers, to fit the masses of the people from its shifting ideas of what was necessary for socialism. Now, during this turbulence and the clash of these ideas, certain fixed points of course stood out. A socialist society would be one that replaced exploitation and inequality by social justice. Got my point? It would be a society in which everything necessary for the general well-being would be owned in common. Swaraj? By the people. It would be a community rather than a cluster of competing individuals, and its members would live and work together in harmony. What is this cluster? The nobles won't be there, the church won't be there, the rich people won't be there. And the rich people, the nobles are fighting between themselves how many peasants they are going to take care of, how many they are going to rule, how much land they have. in that turbulence and cluster, they are getting mixed up, they are getting mixed, battered up, they are getting into paste, their life is becoming miserable. So socialism has to come. I'll come back in the next video.